It's V. I feel like a child. Like, who am I? V and he's next to me.
Good morning. Good morning, V.
And we have a name now for this series, maybe turning into an ongoing video sort of podcast.
I don't really want to have a long relationship with you. I'm just going to state that up front. Like, I don't think I'm into this whole show thing. Like, let's just keep it what it is right now.
Oh, okay. It's just all we can commit to is this next moment, and we don't know what's going to happen. We may not further this relationship. We don't know what's going to happen. But for this show and the last show, we've titled it Truth Talk, Demystifying Sales and Marketing. So just as an umbrella, we are just looking under the covers of all the sales and marketing techniques that are often presented like facts, of the ways to go. And so our main thing, because we both have a really long history in sales and marketing and being successful with it, and doing a lot of experimenting with it. A lot of these things, for me, I've been in the online space a little more. Lisa's sort of entering. So some of these things she's not aware of, the sort of formulas being taught here. And I'm part of the show is me disclosing some of the things that I have come across and what my upfront feelings are, and then getting her opinion in on it. And so we can just really explore it. And I want to say that they're upfront. I want this to be a safe space for everybody to not feel like there is no, I really actually truly believe that there is no right or wrong way to do any of it. So even if I talk about a certain strategy and I say, I don't like it for these reasons, it doesn't mean that it might not work for you. I really believe, and I know that Lisa feels this way, it's all about where you're coming from. And the greatest thing we can do though is create spaces where we're safe to explore how we really feel about things. What does work for us? What doesn't? Why? And accept each other, however we're doing it in that process, and support each other. So that's what this space is. And
can I say something about the name though?
I'm not done. No, go ahead.
I just really wish you would have picked Behind the Cash Curtain. I thought that was really good.
We had fun coming up with names. We're like,
at 9:00 last night.
Yeah, I was like, what are we going to call this? I have to put it up. So she shot out a whole bunch of them, and it was like, yes, maybe, no. Yeah. I was like, Cash Curtain. I'm like, maybe we can do a special one on that or something.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think of the Wizard of Oz for some reason. Just the big booming voice and the all-powerful guy, and the truth of the insecurity behind it. And I think that's, a good thing to pay attention to is that symbolism that would pop up, because I think it's the same for sales and marketing in a way, is there's this presentation of all togetherness and all, like it's unquestionable, but the truth is it's just humans pulling the, strings and pushing the buttons. And that's the part that we're really actually looking at. So it is behind a curtain in a way. I think that's why
it's true. Right.
Came
you
up.
Just sold me on the name. I think we should change it.
I wanted to be about the Wizard of Oz.
You're so good at selling. See,
yeah.
I had a thought. Anyway, it went away.
That's okay. It's morning time, so it's a little bit harder to catch the stray thoughts.
But here. So here's today what I want to talk about or bring up. So I know that you listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast, right? The 4-Hour Workweek, and read his book. And I want to say, I don't know if I've read his whole book. I know I've picked it up and read chunks of it. I know the basic premise of it.
Let me tell you, you bought that book, and when we were living together.
Oh, see, I can't remember.
You read the whole thing, and then I think either gave it to me or I bought it. So that was like, I don't even know when he published it, but I think it was right when it came out.
It was 7 years ago then, or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't count time anymore.
Yeah. It was a little while. See, so this is a little timeline. You can't remember things from 8 years ago, books you've read. This is proof right now.
Very fresh.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought I had, because I have it in me what it's about, and I hear his voice, and I've seen him in a couple interviews. I haven't like listened to his. Again, upfront, likable, and I guess okay. So here's what I see as like a result of that sort of filtered in to like the online space of people. So there's a really good quality to that, which is there's a whole movement of people like screw the 9 to 5, and that aspect of like I don't want to just be a sort of slave to someone else's mission that's just getting me a paycheck, so then I can live my life after. That sort of rebellion. There's a rebellion happening to that sort of thing, and people, there is like a healing kind of crisis happening in the world that's like waking people up to want to go further into the healing thing and help others in that. And then, okay, how do we survive from that? And that's a lot of people coming online, healers and coaches and artists, and like, okay, how can I make my whole life be about what I care about and survive from it? And so there's an element to what he's saying, of how to go about doing that is respectable, and that's been helpful. There's another element though to it, this sort of, it's also filtered into like a lot of marketing. Like, there's one guy who pops up doing his marketing ad, and he's got there's a million of these, okay, but he's like in his swimming pool in LA, and
I know.
Like, hey everybody,
I got this swimming house, and here I'm talking to you from the poolside, and like, you can do what I could do. Yeah. And
he doesn't say it, but it's like, you want my life, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta follow what I say, right? But it's kind of like, and for some, but it has, a lot of them have this like, I am living the life on my laptop, and I'm traveling the world, and or I have this big, fancy house and butlers or whatever it is,
I'm a butler.
Huh?
I'm a butler.
You are. She's Lisa Butler, just in case. She's not actually like she's a really good service person though. She loves hosting parties, and she is actually a really good butler, actually.
Well, I think the origin of the name is actually Boutelier, which means keeper of the wine. So there. I actually have a lot to say about this. Can I talk now, or are you still need to say more?
Oh, fine. Go ahead.
So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that I'm tortured by this, and even, there's so much to say about it. Okay, so I think first
deep
of all,
breath. We can do it. We can get it out.
I think
see, that's what it makes you feel like. Oh my God, I gotta get the house and the I want to just be on the plane with my laptop already. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that there's a lot of ways to come at this, because I think one, there are generational differences. We're talking about like Gen Y, millennials, like everybody coming up in this increasingly technologically mobile world. You take this world with you on your phone, in your computer. So it makes sense that the paradigm of work would shift into this space. And to be fair to Tim Ferriss, that was a long time ago work. And I think that his place is different now, just to say that. This is from, but in a way, he was very prescient. And that was the beginning of that stated movement, right? So I'm going to broaden it a little bit to the entrepreneurial world at large. I think it's so easy to panic, and it's very hard to be in the place you are and be like, I should be over there, right? And again, it's like you and I could bite on 500 courses, but does that mean that we're in the place that we're going to actually actualize a pivot, what they call a pivot, or a life change right away? No. So this is going to be a little bit all over the place, but I'm reading a book right now called, or I just finished it, called The Courage to be Disliked. And one of the things for myself, and that I'm working on, I'm in therapy for, is to be here now and to stop being distracted by shiny, shiny, shiny. Mm-hmm. And to plant myself where I am and to create the freedom that I need in my context of now, if that makes sense. And so I think it's valid. Like, I still want to take my laptop, work, be myself, say what I have to say, make the money I need, take my child around the world. I want that freedom, but I think that the flip side of that is if we panic and buy a bunch of courses where people tell us how to do it, that's always the thing that kept me in fantasy and kept me from making the steps towards my own freedom and contributing my voice to the world, was there's someone else's way to do it. So I think the danger in those kinds of instructions, sure, people can tell you a million ways how to be free, but until we decide that we're just going to, that's one reason I do love Seth Godin, is kind of like the message that comes through is like, the work is hard, do the work. The work is hard, do the work. It's easy to be in fantasy, but if I focus on how I could do it if I would do it, I can stay inactive. If I actually just start applying myself every day, doing this show, writing a blog, literally like day by day creating my life, then I will get somewhere eventually. I don't know where that where will be. I'm not going to worry about it so much anymore, because I find that a release from my pain is to express myself. So,
right. And getting here, like you said, is the point is to, in this moment, get here with the now, with the feeling of that you're a success here, that you're good, that you're, that this is good enough also right now, but that letting life unfold though in a path that feels better and better, Yeah,
and more than good enough, it is perfect for now, because I can't be anywhere else doing any other thing. And I think that taking my energy outside my body and putting it in the future is such a danger, because for every amount that I'm stuck in the past or in the future, I can't apply that energy to now, and I'm always dissatisfied. And I've worked a lot on this feeling. I've had that feeling my whole life, that I'm not in the right place at the right time, and really it's just a way for me to stay pulled out from the intimacy of the moment. And I don't think that those courses are bad. I think any tool, if it actually helps to crystallize action, is for you or for me. We can consume as much as we want, but in the end, there's got to be output with the input.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't think they're bad or good either. I think whatever you do and commit to, you're going to learn and get something out of it if you're putting into it. So whatever that is that you decide to do, it's really the action thing. So whichever thing motivates us to take action is good.
We've just talked ourselves out of this whole damn show. It's all good, and use whatever you want. No.
Yeah, I'm out of ideas. No. Another aspect of that whole thing is, I guess, so I'm just picking him. This is, I have nothing actually. I don't think about Tim Ferriss that much. But when you brought him up the other day, it made me think, because he does symbolize, I think, the beginning of an era of this sort of, everything has to have balance with it. It's like there's the light and the dark of everything, and it's what we do with it. So, but the other element I feel like that's trickled down, not necessarily again because of his message, but where it goes because of our own insecurities, is even the concept of the 4-hour work week. So at first, I think that was very appealing because of the message, but there's also the discrepancy in me of like, work, when I'm doing what lights me up, is what I want to be doing, not for 4 hours a week, but
that's an important distinction, I think.
Yes. So it's just a distinction of that. And I guess where people can go, if we're still staying, it's really to switch out of an entire mentality of what is work and our energy and where we're going to put it. But it's not to, I personally wouldn't find, I would feel the same sort of existential hell that I feel if I got to be on a beach all the time. That was beautiful. If I didn't have my work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, that doesn't solve, that problem. That isn't a great promise to me. What I want to feel is at home in my body on this earth, doing feels right and true to me, and be able to feel like I can, and I'm safe, and I'm loved, and I can love, and that's what I want to feel. So I guess it's just disclosing whatever messaging, takes me into panic mode off of feeling that's possible. I just want to talk about, and sales, marketing, all these things are so triggering, and we're trying to transform. I think everybody's trying, like his thing, everybody's thing is an attempt to move us out of, being a sort of slave to our fears instead of, a trust in our essential purpose and divinity. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so that I don't know. So that's the other aspect of the work messaging, that when things are pitched that way, I personally am like, red flag, not interested. But it's a lot of pitching, and I just want to bring it up because so many people say, do it this way. That's how it's going to work. You won't make money if you don't, different messagings. And I just want to bring light to all of it. And so we can choose what resonates for us, choose how that anything can work if you're aligned with it. Selling is the art of just asking, being direct about what you have and asking for it. There's a million ways to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot of things to think about with that. The fact that our work is wherever we apply ourselves, right? Creatively. So there's the work of making a family. There's the work of taking care of ourselves. There's the work of making money. So, but again, going back to the time that book was written, I mean, we've had a major paradigm shift from the Industrial Revolution, which brought people out of country, sort of like spread out into these cities to become mechanized, right? And so this is the pendulum swing back out from that, because you saw this increase of efficiency in work, because then you had people together, then you had bosses, hierarchies, skyscrapers. It's very blocky if you think about what happened. So now, because I find that everything works in a pendulum swing, just like the Mad Men era versus the Me Too movement. And I think that's a thing that we also all lose sight of a lot of times, is this larger cultural perspective of where are we in this cycle of things. So I think that we're naturally moving out of, and that's where working from home is coming in. You know what I mean? We're spreading out from these very bulky, constructs of bringing out, because that's the information makes everybody be able to access everything much differently. So I think that was the beginning of a paradigm shift, or maybe in the middle, because a lot of times when art comes out, I mean, it can be before to say, or it's just reflecting what's happening. But so I don't have so much of a reaction, except for, again, that thing where it's all triggering the scarcity thing. Like, I'm not doing that, I should be doing that. And it takes out this sort of perspective, like, I'm a unique individual. How I choose to express my life is going to be an improvisation, and there is no right way to do it. And I think so much that the thing that none of us really talk about is how conditioned we are to think that money or fame, something outside, is going to make us feel that we've arrived in the moment. But it's like a totally screwed mechanism, because if you're always aiming for that more in the future, then you're never in the moment. So you're never going to feel like you arrived. And that's why also, lottery winners and superstars, so many deaths, so much tragedy, so much drug use. There's a whole fallacy about how do we feel whole, And so I think, again, I think you are reacting to something real. There's a franticness about entrepreneurial engagement, and I find myself like, I'm too old, I'll never be able to do that, and it stops me from just, I'm raising my hand right now, I'm going to do this, and I don't care if it's right, or if I do it right, or if I have the right structure. But I have been stopped for decades, V, and you know this, decades. I've been paralyzed in this, give me the rule book, and then I'll put myself in the rule book. And finally I was like, F that, man. I have a limited amount of time to be myself and to try to connect to people and make a tribe or not. I don't even know. But I think that I feel that pressure it's so much pressure.
It
And
is.
it's like, also, it's like, oh, well, that's the realm of the shiny 20-year-olds, you know, is like, if I didn't start back then, I won't make it. But I think there's a question of how time even functions outside of, you know, in quantum physics, does time even flow forward? So if you take off all that burden, there's only now. Again, like, this is the day that we have, this is the moment, that's it. And I hate to be foofy about it in that way, but that's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, I guess that's kind of why I've chosen to do the path that I'm on. It's just because I don't think there's enough voices calling out what's happening. I think because of our experience actually being quite successful as sellers, marketer type people, we also, even for all your years you spent struggling, you also have seen and a lot of knowledge about how to actually connect with people and communicate very effectively. I mean, you're like a master at that. And I think a lot of people are very masterful at things that they're not acknowledging. Agreed. And then conferring their power to the elusive whoever says, you know, just as you just ran down, and we all do it, and that's like the problem of our culture. The only reason
trained to do that too. We were trained to give up our power. If you think about, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but just, you know, it's all about God's going to take care of it. The president's going to take care of it. You know, we all know that. I think that's the malaise of our age, and maybe every age, I don't know, you know, is that we know we're not owning ourselves, and it's not our fault in a way. It's like you have to like struggle and you have to nose your way towards the surface of the water to be an individual who expresses themselves uniquely and who says, I can make it. I'm a co-creator. But we were trained to give up our power. Think about it. That's just the structure. It keeps that 1% in, you know, control, and it keeps us in a consuming world that's destroying the, you know, planet.
Well, and I think I'll just, you know, like the 1% that's in control, I think, again, it starts by realizing that nobody's in control except for us. And once we, you know,
yeah, agree.
Can get that, like, that's the constant. I think all of us are constantly wavering between these two beliefs. And there's almost like, you know, it's not, I wanted to say the word epidemic, but that sounds negative, but, you know, a fire moving throughout people, that there is a starting to weigh these two coins, you know?
Well, I think you nailed it when you called it a healing crisis.
Yeah, it is. We're in a healing. I mean, the you know, it's reclaiming ourselves as part of an ecosystem. It's our ecosystem inside of ourselves. It's the ecosystem outside of ourselves, all connected. And then, you know, I'm looking and filtering everything through, you know, selling as my lens to go into and see out the world. That there, to me, is the way, my entry door to see what's up with my own belief system. Where do I hit up against these different things, and then being able to pull myself back in. And that's what we did.
Aikido is what I thought.
Well, I mean, that's how we sold powerfully, is by going through, and we were trained to think philosophically. We lived in a community that took on a definite belief in certain concepts, and some of them we've kept, some of them we've shed, but a lot of them are timeless. And it's in the application of like deciding what you believe in and then applying. It's getting out of the frenzy of panic and actually just thinking and applying something all the way through to see if it resonates, and then acting from there. And to me, that's like selling from the heart.
Agreed.
That is what
Perfect. Well, I just want to comment on that, because a couple things. Like, first of all we have is from our inside out. You know what I mean? Like, I can only so much. I can perceive everything outside of myself, but I can only come from inside of myself. And so in that sense, everything I do, whether it's parenting, again, or all these sort of tasks, selling being one of them, is this crucible in which I work out my belief system. And if I don't think of it as just this mechanism for making money, I think of it as a laboratory for growing myself as an artist. You know, not everybody relates to art, but, or just growing myself. Like,
I think it is. I mean, it is. Life is an art. Selling is an art. It is an art. I think
everything is an expression of the individual, right? So I think that what you're getting at, and where we came to in this training from this, you know, other life that we had.
We're gonna write a book about that one day, so that you guys understand. We have a really intense history.
But yeah, that's a whole other world. It's like, I can feel it. It's like this huge.
It's too much to go into right here, guys. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah.
But like, that's how, even when I went back into corporate America, which I was different, you know, it was such an extreme difference, but I'm still going to be myself. I'm still looking for the magic process of selling. And that's a whole other discussion to have sometime, is when you distill all your energy, you put it out as creatively as possible. And I like to tell people, I tell the people I sell to, I said, I think honesty is the most rare commodity of all. Genuineness, connection. There's a way it can be foofy, or there's a way that you can do it as yourself and your personality that's funny or smart ass or dark. You know, it doesn't have to be touchy-feely, but there's a way that I'm like going to, and heart-centered is a perfect, because there's a whole other discussion to have about heart resonance and the morphic field of our hearts, and that we're electrical animals, and that it's all the, you know, intuition and the way that there's no such thing as people in isolation. We are not vacuums. We are not separate. Everything, if I'm not talking to you, this conversation is not happening. If I'm not picking up this pen, it's all relationships. So because we live in a finance economy, we still have to make money. How can I most take the entirety of myself, and how can I just edge towards having it be as meaningful as it can? And I think that's a process. And I think where that whole, you know, here's where you can get your laptop and be on a beach goes out the window for me, is like, for me, it doesn't work that way. It's just a series of each day steps where I'm like, am I closer to selling something that means that I am emotionally involved with, or maybe not. Maybe it doesn't work out. It's never linear. Maybe it's all over the place. Maybe I have this nonprofit I work for, and my relationship with V, and the podcast we do, and my writing, and I'm still selling conferences to businesses. I think the preconceptions have to be thrown out the window about how to do it, because you can only do it your way and I can only do it my way.
I totally relate to all of that. I think here's what it makes me think is at the heart of like my thing that I want to say like to the whole world and scream from rooftops is like the fact that we are selling all of the time.
Yeah.
We're selling first. We are selling to ourselves first in everything we do.
Oh, that's interesting. Wait. Let me interrupt. Say more about that. What does that mean, selling to ourselves first?
That we, for me, it means like, I have a vision of the world I want to live in, and what I have beliefs that when I own them, when I connect with them, I feel the feeling of peace and at home on this earth and in my body, and like I can give and receive and anything. And I'm selling myself constantly on the things that bring me to that place. And I am figuring out how to do that in all my walks of life, whether I'm selling, asking for money for a work exchange, whether I'm selling to my child on something I'd like him to do, whether I'm selling you on doing this podcast with me, whether I'm, it took a while, guys. But what I'm starting out with, because and you even helped me in writing my bio thing, that like the sales exchange became, whether someone, when we were selling on the street, we sold on the street for years and on the phone and all kinds of things, it was all cold selling, how to get warm up with somebody really quick. But the thing is, when I was on, what a lot of people are using the word flow, feeling in flow, what we called it was being on, whether somebody gave me money or not, there was an exchange happening. When I really felt on, I feel like, that was irrelevant almost. It's not completely, I was definitely, I think you phrased it right. Like in a world of throwaway stuff, I was selling someone on the way of being and interacting. I was selling them on an idea of how we could have an exchange by creating that kind of exchange, by for a moment creating this world that we entered together. And I think it's possible because I connected to something in them that also sees and wants and hopes for this world, and they want to enter that door. No one has to enter that door with me. But when, like, we used to talk about this, we'd go stand on the street and we would make it our stage. When we first got out there, people were like, it was like a total wall, no, and then you had to do the work, and the work was connecting to what I believed in. And we kept, and then it got to a point where like everybody interacted with me. Nobody got by that corner without having an exchange, and a pleasant one of some sort. I was well, when I got on it, before I got on,
I'm just teasing. I
didn't hear what you said, actually. I
said maybe pleasant.
I can't hear you. We used to work next to each other, and Lisa used to put up an imaginary door sometimes between us. She'd be like, I'm cutting you out. And she would like cut the door, and I'd be like trying to rip it down, but there was no door. It was airspace.
We were like some really bad mimes.
She was 3 feet from me. Yeah. She'd be like, do this whole elaborate thing.
But we used to do that to people. Do you remember that? You'd like on the street and open the door and stick your head in. They're like, who the hell is this? Like, this crap. Because we weren't easy to classify, I think. It was hard to put
and that's the thing
when person into a, anyway.
When you start having fun, when you get out from the goal you think you're supposed to get to and get in the moment, because all we had me and Lisa were very goal oriented. We had a reality of a number, like to pay our mortgage, pay our bill. Like if it wasn't coming in other places, it was like, Lisa and V, go make it, right? And so these were very definite things that had to be attained, but we couldn't attain it until we also let go and threw out the number and settled into our moment.
Well, which I must say, like, and everybody probably knows this, preaching to the choir, but the minute the money became the focus was the death of
horrible
connection.
Horrible.
Because again, it's like, how can I be here with you if this is where my angst is over here about making the money, and then I'm just trying to get that from you, and so it's not a fair exchange. So it's a weird paradox that you have to drop that motivation to really have abundance.
Yeah. There was something I was thinking about earlier that ties in, because we did a lot of phone selling to stores and in various capacities, but we used to put various items in stores, and we would cold call them at first. And sometimes we had relationships with people for, 5 years, like, or, ongoing, some buy right away, some take 5 years, whatever. But you can have a conversation with somebody that you were talking to for years, and you would check in every 6 months with, and have this great exchange with them. Maybe it was even just the first time covered, whatever. But you can have an amazing exchange with them, crack up, laugh, connect, cry, hear something sad, anything.
Oh yeah.
Them, be there with them. They didn't buy anything from you. You call the next person. They don't even want to talk to you, and they're like, send me $500 worth of stuff. Blah 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 blah. And if you hadn't have gotten there with that other person, so are you going to strategize your way? Are you going to calculate your way into that kind of interaction? Like, I'm going to be nice to this it's a genuine thing, and then your energy's open, and it all works together though. You needed that woman. There was an exchange there just as much as the person who gave you money. You needed both of them. They both gave to you. So it's not just about the money. You need to decide what it is you need to sustain yourself. And it's money and all kinds of things we need. Money is
Well,
not the bottom line. And that's the issue that I feel unconsciously, even though there's so many things saying it's not about the money in the image look or what the words are. I just feel it. You know, it ends up people, and it's not the money, it's the fear. It's really what's
it's a
underneath all the things.
philosophic issue. It's a philosophic issue and a belief that life isn't reciprocal, or the universe isn't reciprocal. And
bam, bam.
I think that's it, really. And that's, I would say, the number one secret sauce. I mean, let's just be real. When I try to explain to people what my process is, it is, I will give and give and give and give, and I won't have a preconception as long as I apply myself and all my artistry, and I'm always honing my artistry, and I'm, okay, I messed up there, I wasn't genuine there, I got desperate there, I did this, you know, where I have a process internally where I'm critiquing myself. But as long as I keep on putting out, it will come from left field at the minute I least expect it, and save my life always. And it's the same way that you were talking about, I don't know if it was on your website or where, yeah, it's in your bio, I think, where you're talking about, like, I'm always taken care of. It makes me want to cry, actually, because I forget every fucking day that I'm going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And there's so many complications and so many ways that we all didn't get what we need. And I think that's the danger of those. I think all the people putting out the programs are good programs, and they're valuable, and it's information, and we all need to express ourselves. But it's like, again, operating on scarcity. You know, do this to make what you need. And there's somehow, I guess this is a good challenge question. Like, how do you keep it just giving in the giving realm? And it's like, I think our world would just be a different place if we understood that. Literally, it reflects this fear that there's not enough, and this actual total illusion that we're separate and we're not an ecosystem, and that everything could flow back and forth. I think that's the world that we dream about. That's why we join Zendik Farm. Like, so, you know, how do you, because the whole thing is you have to capture people, and even the language, it's imprisonment. I got to capture you. I got to capture you in, then I got to, like, reel you in.
It's the sales funnel. It's the funnel. You're in a funnel. Like, if I saw that woman.
Which is like, if you think about that's the inside of a freaking tornado, dude. Yeah, but how, so what's the answer then? Like, how, because it means, if I'm doing my just sales job, I am being, or it's all the ways I structure myself, I think, outside of that process that are actually fundamental to the success. Is I do have to do follow-up. I have to keep on checking in. Everybody's busy. I have to do all those technical salesy things in a way, but I'm also having an internal sense of, is this going somewhere? Is this not going somewhere? So let's be real. I'm still selling, right? I'm still trying, in this sense, I am not out of the paradigm of having to do that. So, but it's kind of like I'm navigating in this very psychedelic world, strangely, of where is the energy? But I'm keeping on putting out, and I have to have that faith. Without the faith that, as long as I give of myself, and I try to give as present and honest and heart-centered, whatever, in my own way, doesn't have to be, again, like, I love you, but that I'm going to be successful, and I am. And how do you explain that to people? Just keep on giving. Just keep on giving.
I don't think you have to explain it at all. I think you just be it. And I think if we can own our own confidence and then put out, just keep putting out, like you said. I mean, a lot of, like, what I bump up against with people, you know, great people doing great work coming into this online space, the biggest issue is letting themselves be visible. Selling is putting themselves out again and again, imperfectly. I have a million critiques
so hard
about the last video we just did. There's things I wanted to say that I missed, that I did, you know, a million. But it's good enough that it's valuable. And I'm not going to make it perfect without continuing on.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just going to get better and better. Like, you're going to be uncomfortable. Everything you do is going to make putting it out, especially in a world where we've all, you know, and we've grown up in an abusive world. We've been hurt. It's going to hurt a little putting it out. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you got to decide if it's worth it, if what you gain is more than what you're losing by holding back. For me, I'm very good at staying very safe. That's what I've been out of. My world fell apart And I got to a place where I am very safe. I could stay there my whole life and no one would, you know, I got to a point where it was like, you know, even the internal thing was like, okay, how do I get through this till the end? I can't opt out. I have a kid. How do I, because of that, that's what that safe feeling brought me.
Yeah.
Hiding and instead of like being hurt from,
It's not safe at all.
Works, how do I keep
horrible.
putting out? And as I've moved, and the only signs are moving towards the joy, moving towards a thing, like finding cues that light you up and trusting that that's the essence of life, that moving into that feeling, that's your purpose talking to you, it's important, you're important, you have something to say and share and give and receive and all of it. But you're not gonna, you know, selling is a fundamental, what if we lived outside of this, you know, a world with money? Selling is still an inherent part of our life. How did the first guy who, like, I don't know, used some tool to do something better, you know, he went, hey, look, check this out, you know, and they're like, well, you know, like, this is cool. And then they were like, yeah, let's use it. Right. So like that was selling. Or, you know, I think it's fundamental. I haven't read the book, but Verdi sent me a link to a book, To Sell Is to Be Human.
That's cool.
I love that title because it's a child is a natural seller. Children sell all the time, and you got to train them how to, you know, be human with it, like, or be it's not that they aren't human, but you know, it's the teaching then of how to teach them how to
I have to ask you, because I'm confused a little bit, like, when you say children sell all the time, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean.
I think
I get it sort of, but I don't really.
They're trying to get, to me, selling is you trying to communicate how you'd like things to go. And
yeah, I call it lawyering.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old lawyers me, which she obviously learned from us, you know.
But yes, well, but I think it's also a natural input, you know, it's do whatever you can, like, to get what your needs met. We're trying to sell something because it's getting our needs met. They're trying to get their needs met. They, you know, and so their selling comes from that. They're children, so they may not know best what gets their needs met. And that's where you come in. You know, I'm not the most successful at this, but I can see what needs to happen there, you know, to guide. That's where our jobs as parenting, you know, so like parenting is also everywhere. We're parenting ourselves. You know, it's all the same.
There is no such thing. And that's actually what's happening in our world too, with all this multi-platform marketing and selling. The physical does reflect the metaphysical also, is that, you know, it's a natural, again, swing towards integration, right?
It's all connected. We're all connected. So yeah, it's how do we break these walls down that don't exist? So they're in our mind. There are all these barriers.
Yeah.
So this is my portal way in. For some people, it's through healing modalities, or it's through, you know, is your way then to take that and then bring it to the other areas of your life. Because if it's true here, it's true.
There really isn't.
The metaphysical aspect is true everywhere. So you go in the gate that's easiest for you. And so if selling isn't your natural thing, come in your gate and see how it applies here. Trust yourself, trust what you know, where you know it, and that you can apply it here as well. And it works. You got to have guts to try it though. It works.
I want to go back to something you said, because I think this is an important, actual technical thing, but just cues and clues. Like, even when I'm doing research or thinking about who I want to call, like, if I really just trust where my impulses are, like someone pops in my head, so I can't tell you how many times someone's popped into my head, I call them and we close a sale. You're
a master at that. Yeah, you're amazing that way.
Well, and it's everybody. It's those little whispers. And I think the more we allow them space in ourselves, the more we understand, and it's not actually just your belief system. I agree that it's your belief system, but if you take that apart a little bit further, it's all the ways that we register information that we don't even understand, the ways that our brain works. And it could be a smell, it could be a phone call, it could be an article, but they're all weaving together in this tapestry. And it's the way that we have access to more information than we do just surfacely, because everything is interconnected.
It's believing that that's real. It's,
yes.
You know, we either don't believe that's real because society says life's one-dimensional and all what's real is what we can see with our eyes, and that's it, not what we feel, perceive, intuit. It's, you know, we're cutting off our limbs that way. So it is
100%
in giving validity to that. And what I'm saying is you're a master at that in the area. So then it's like, okay, for all of us, how do we then take where we actually are really good at it and then just start to carry it over into these other, like, okay, oh, that whispers there all the time, but for some reason in these other areas, I don't listen as good. Why? You know?
Because we negate ourselves. We negate ourselves all the time. I negate myself all the time. I stay in that comfort zone, which is actually, let's just go ahead and call it a discomfort zone. It's the ultimate torture. It's hell on earth. It is safety, but it's so easy to then take this fantasy about why I can't and stay in that torture. It's so crazy. It's so opposite.
I believe it's because we are out of an ecosystem of support. Like we are naturally, I feel like biologically, spiritually, meant to exist in community. We are all affect each other. We're all pieces of a whole. And so the degree of cray I go, you know, I can also have this perception because I love saying that cray.
Do you do that when you're selling cray?
Have I said it before? You know I have, right? You got cray.
Oh, I
know. But the degree that that we're all like on our own planets doing this is because it is a lack of, and so how, you know, that's one of the big appeal to the online space, and communities are forming. And so there's a great thing to that because people are like, wow, I need to be seen, I need to be heard, and I need help and support. And so I'm just questioning, there's great things happening that way. And then some of this is just bringing up, well, where are we just going into this new way, doing the same old things we've always done, and where is it good? So where is it healthy? Where is it not healthy? Because how are we going to get to health if we don't just, you know, you always got to look like, oh, is this diet working for me or not? You know?
Yeah, I have two things that I think are related. I want to go back.
I think let's go into this, and then we might. It's been an hour.
Oh,
we might wrap it up, sort of, and then continue because we could talk forever. Right? Should we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say, and then maybe we'll wrap up this one just to give people not something. It's a lot to digest. So.
Yeah. I want to go back to your statement that we live in an abusive world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's true. I think the separation or the non-acknowledgement of our connectedness or our ecosystemness, it's not a word, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, and it's kind of just our process. I think it's where we are as a species, and we may or may not make it. And that's a whole other conversation for another time. And then is there continuity in the universe of energy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But,
I hear what you're saying though.
Yeah. And so in the same way, I don't think we have to look for what's wrong in that way and what's right about this way, because I don't really believe in duality that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think and that's something I've been having to work on a lot too, is things can exist at the same time. I can be heartbroken and creative. I can be mad and functional, whatever it is. It's hard to keep opposite things in the same space. And I think that's particularly a Western thing. Again, a way we're taught. But so I don't know. I don't think that that we have to be in opposition to. It's more like what maybe isn't being said, and what are the deeper root things that are trying to happen in these sales techniques and these, what's the next place that's maybe more integrative. Right. And because they are moving towards personal expression and individual freedom. So that's all I really want to say about that.
I agree with you. I think that is again the duality of going into looking at things from a me versus the world or something, or again seeing it integrated, because like things in one perspective to me are and can seem abusive. However, if I really look at it, the switching fact of that is my own perception. I can be in almost any abusive situation, also switch my perception and gain power. And I also, over that, gain a place that's not a victim, gain, that isn't. So
I'm not saying there's not a lot of tragic.
No, well, I agree, because I think that is a fundamental shift, is getting out of, and I have worked, my first reactions is, I want to label things as good and bad and right and wrong, and me is, I want to be on the side of right, and that is on, I want to be on the side of not abusing, and that,
Me too.
Those are all, we've both done a lot of work to get, but that's like our whole society's, work at hand, is I think to get over this sort of whatever paradigm of separation. That's
and that means I can't look at myself and change if I can't look at the dark side of myself. I think that's literally the issue, is like we can talk about the economy going into the bin and blah blah blah. There's all these external things that we can look at to keep us distracted from the real work at hand, is to take responsibility for our ability as makers on this planet, and to say, oh, we're just taking, we're not caretaking, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it can seem large, like, oh, how are we going to tackle all of this? However, it's like we just funnel it into these technological advances and going far out and going into outer space and other planets, but all of it is just that fear to acknowledge where we've been assholes and our shadows, and I just
right. Well, it's to acknowledge all of it. It's to acknowledge, and maybe again, I'll point out, maybe it's not that we're assholes, because asshole has sort of an intentional feeling to it. Like we're, like we just, so same thing with me using abuse. We'll have to like correct each other. It's like all of us have to correct each other. You know what I mean? To figure out what is it we're trying to lean into. Our training is to go back to that. So we're going to struggle with that as well. But so that is why I feel like together we can help, because we all see, son's phone is going off. Can you hear that?
Time to go. We're done.
That's the universe saying,
shut up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Too long. Where did these ladies go? Too much. Okay, so we're gonna save this for the next episode.
Did we talk about sales at all? I don't know.
Sales? Is that in the title? I don't know if we were supposed to talk about that. Anyway, okay, so this is V. And that's Lisa, and if you have any questions actually that you would like us to discuss, explore, talk about, or any feedback and input that you have about the things we're discussing, I am, and Lisa is genuinely interested about this topic, so we would love to hear from you.
Topic.
What's up?
If there is a topic, I'm not sure. Lots of topics. We're interested. We're just interested.
It's the underbelly of sales and marketing and all its exploration, and then everything else about life too. Okay, so all right, signing out. Love y'all, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.